Okay, hello, Algebra 2 students. This is Mr. Myers. I'm going to go over adding and subtracting rational functions. Remember, a rational function is just a function that has a numerator and a denominator, both with either a variable or one may have a constant and the other one will have a variable. Either way, you're going to have a fraction. Now, I want to refresh your memory. When you're adding fractions, you must have a common denominator before you add. For example, if I gave you 2/5 plus 1/5, the denominators are the same. They're both 5. I just add the numerators and I am done unless I can reduce the fraction. 3/5 does not reduce because there's no common factors. So that would be my final answer. So in this example of 4x plus 9, both of them divided by x plus 7, you simply add the numerators and you are finished. There are no common factors in the numerator and the denominator to divide out, so that is my final answer. Now, if your denominators are not alike, you will have to go ahead and find a common denominator. But before we can do that, we have to talk about finding the lowest common multiple, because when you are trying to get fractions with a common denominator, you're going to look at both of the denominators and see what is the lowest common multiple that you can multiply each denominator by to find a common denominator. Okay, before I do this one, x squared minus 7x plus 6 and x squared minus 5x minus 6, I want to refresh our memory on finding lowest common multiple. So if I use the numbers, let's just say 12 and let's use 18. Those are two good numbers. They have lots of multiples. They share a lot of common factors. So if I just factor 12 into 2 and 6, and I factor 18 into 3 and 6, oops, didn't mean to do that. 2 times 6 is 12, 3 times 6 is 18. Notice that they don't share a 2 in common, they don't share a 3 in common, but they do share a 6 in common. So the lowest common multiple will be every number they don't share in common times only one of each number they share in common. So if they share multiple numbers in common, you have to pick one of each. So I picked one of the 6s. I picked the 3 and the 2 because they didn't share those in common. You multiply those together. 2 times 3 times 6 is 36. So that's the lowest common multiple. So if I had a fraction with a 12 in the denominator and a fraction with 18 in the denominator, I would change each fraction so that they would have a common denominator of 36. So let's go back over here. I'm going to factor this one. Remember my factoring techniques. I'm always going to try the x method first, where you put the b. Remember, negative 7 is your b, and positive 6 is your c. I'm going to put the b on top, I'm going to put the c on bottom, and I want two numbers when multiplied equal the top number. Excuse me, two numbers when added equal the top number, but when multiplied equal the bottom number. Notice the bottom number is positive and the top number is negative. That tells me both of my factors have to be negative, and the only way it's going to work is with negative 6 and negative 1. So I can factor x squared minus 7x plus 6 into x minus 6 times x minus 1. I want to reiterate that x minus 6 times x minus 1 is equivalent or equal to x squared minus 7x plus 6. Think of it like this. It would be like having the numbers 6 and 8. If I had 6 times 8, it would be 48. So if I said this whole thing was worth 48, and this was worth 6, and this was worth 8, 6 times 8 would equal 48. I want to reiterate that because I'm not always certain that students understand that when you factor a trinomial to two binomials, those two binomials are equivalent or are the same value as our trinomial. They just look different. Okay, let's do the second trinomial. This one's negative 5 and negative 6. Once again, the C value is negative, the B value is also negative. That tells me one of the factors is negative and one is positive. Well, the larger absolute value one has to be negative to get a negative B, and the smaller absolute value one has to be positive. 1 times negative 6 is negative 6. Negative 6 added to 5 negative 6 added to 1 makes negative 5. So my factors on that one are x minus 6 and x plus 1. Now, I have them factored, but I haven't found the lowest common multiple. Just like we did with the numbers, we found what they don't share in common. They do not share an x minus 1 or an x plus 1. However, they do share a x minus 6 in common. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the x minus 6, and I'm going to pick only one of them, x minus 6. So my lowest common multiple between x squared minus 7x plus 6 and x squared minus 5x minus 6 would be x minus 1, x plus 1, x minus 6. You could remultiply those together, but they're not asking you to do that. They're just finding the lowest common multiple. So if I had both of those trinomials in the denominator of a problem, I would multiply one of the trinomials, the one that had the x minus 1, the blue one, would get multiplied by x plus 1. The purple one would get multiplied by x minus 1 because that's what they don't share in common. For example, if I'm trying to take 1/12 and 1/18 and add them, well, how do I make this 12 a 36? Because that's the job I have to do, make the 12 a 36. I would multiply both sides by 3 to get 3/36. Over here, I would multiply the 18 by 2 over 2, which would give me 2/36. Now I have a common denominator. Now I can add the fractions, 5/36. Well, we're not adding anything with this current trinomial, so I will leave that for the next screencastify. I hope that helps clarify how to find the lowest common multiple with a trinomial. Have a good day, and we'll see you in class.